The fastest thing in the galaxy turned out to be piloted by an idiot, which really should have told the Galactic Council something about humanity right from the start. Sensor operator Kathrex's eye stalks vibrated with confusion as she stared at her display aboard the Council monitoring station orbiting New Geneva. The readings made no sense. Something had just passed through restricted space at a velocity that shouldn't exist outside of theoretical physics journals. Station Commander, Kathrex called across the operations center, her translator box crackling with urgency. I'm detecting an impossible velocity signature. Station Commander Vroon, a methane-breathing gastropod in an environment suit, rippled over to her station. His three viewing organs focused on the holographic display, showing a streak of energy that had briefly appeared and vanished. Explain impossible, Vroon bubbled through his translator. Kathrex gestured at the scrolling data. The object traveled pointer to point B in 1.3 seconds. That's a distance of 200,000 kilometers. Nothing moves that fast in atmospheric proximity. Malfunction, Vroon suggested. Before Kathrex could respond, the streak appeared again, this time looping around the station in a figure-8 pattern that set off every proximity alarm they had. The emergency klaxons wailed as the mystery craft zipped past close enough to trigger collision protocols. Vroon's skin flushed purple with alarm. Identify that vessel immediately. Kathrex's manipulators flew across her console. Transponder signal is broadcasting as lightning bug. Registry shows it's a Terran experimental fighter. Pilot listed as Duke Groundrunner. Terran. Vroon's species had no capacity for sighing, but his deflating posture communicated the sentiment. Of course it's Terran. Contact them at once. Kathrex opened a channel. Unidentified Terran vessel Lightning Bug, this is Council Monitoring Station Zeta 9. You are violating restricted space and causing multiple sensor failures. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. The response came through immediately, accompanied by what sounded like classic rock music playing in the background. Hey there, Station Zeta 9. This is Duke Groundrunner in the Lightning Bug. The human's voice was cheerful, almost aggressively casual. Sorry about the sensors, just taking her out for a spin. She's got some new upgrades, and I wanted to see what she could do. Vroon leaned toward the communication array. Pilot Groundrunner, you just traveled 200,000 kilometers in 1.3 seconds. That velocity is prohibited within council-controlled space. Oh yeah, that. Duke sounded like he was grinning. Pretty cool, right? I got her up to 0.98 light speed. Probably could push it further, but my coffee starts floating weird when I go faster. Kathrex's eye stalks went rigid. 0.98 light speed in atmosphere, that's impossible. The energy requirements alone would. Yeah, the engineers told me that too, Duke interrupted. Then we did it anyway. Humans are funny like that. The lightning bug streaked past the station again, this time close enough that Kathrex could see it on the visual monitors. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a knife blade with wings that seemed to shimmer and distort space around them. The craft moved with a fluidity that defied physics, banking and rolling through maneuvers that should have turned any organic pilot into paste. Vroon's skin turned an alarming shade of yellow. Pilot Groundrunner, you need to return to your launch point immediately. The Council will want to inspect this vessel. Can't do that, Commander. Duke's tone remained annoyingly upbeat. She's still in testing phase. Besides, I'm having way too much fun. Watch this. The lightning bug accelerated straight up, climbing so fast it simply vanished from visual range. Kathrex's sensors tracked it leaving the atmosphere, reaching the edge of the system's Kuiper belt, then reversing direction and returning to its starting position above the station. The entire journey took 8 seconds. That's not flying, Kathrex whispered. That's teleportation with extra steps. More channels crackled to life as other council vessels in the sector detected the anomaly. A dreadnought captain named Thorquin demanded explanations. A science vessel requested permission to scan the Terran craft. A diplomatic courier expressed concern about treaty violations. Vroon held up a manipulator for silence and addressed Duke directly. Pilot Groundrunner, I am formally requesting you land at Station Zeta 9 so we can discuss your vessel's capabilities. Sure thing. I could use a bathroom break anyway. What happened next would become the subject of 17 different council investigations. The lightning bug approached the station's docking bay at what Cathrex initially read as a suicidal velocity. Alarms screamed warnings about imminent collision. Automated defense systems tried to target the incoming vessel, but couldn't get a lock. Cathrex closed her primary eye, certain she was about to witness a catastrophic impact. The lightning bug stopped, not slowed down, stopped, from 90% light speed to zero in the space of 3 meters. It hung there in the docking bay, landing gear deploying with a gentle hydraulic hiss, settling onto the deck as softly as a feather. Cathrex checked her instruments 3 times to confirm what she'd just seen violated approximately 40 laws of physics. Docking complete, Duke announced cheerfully. I'll be right up. Vroon turned to Cathrex. Summon every science specialist on this station and contact the council. They're going to want to hear about this. 10 minutes later, Duke Groundrunner walked into the station's operations center, eating what appeared to be a sandwich. He was tall for a human, with messy brown hair, and wearing a flight suit that looked like it had been through several dozen emergency repairs. He had the kind of easy smile that immediately made Cathrex suspicious. Sorry about the mess, Duke said around a mouthful of sandwich. Didn't mean to freak everyone out, just doing some test runs. Vroon's environment suit hissed as he adjusted the internal pressure. Pilot Groundrunner, your vessel appears to violate multiple fundamental principles of physics. The Council will need to understand how this is possible. Duke swallowed and shrugged. Honestly, I'm not really the guy to ask about the how. I just fly her. You want technical specs, you gotta talk to Jenny and the rest of the engineering team. Jenny, Cathrex asked. Jenny Rodriguez, chief engineer. She's the genius who designed the lightning bug's propulsion system. Duke took another bite of his sandwich. Something about quantum tunneling and exploiting loopholes in spacetime. I stopped paying attention after the 3rd hour of equations. A group of council scientists had gathered in the operations center, their various appendages twitching with excitement. A crystalline being named Shardmaster Prism floated forward, its facets refracting the overhead lights. Pilot Groundrunner, Prism chimed, its voice like bells. Your vessel's energy signature suggests you're using a form of Alcubierre drive, but the power requirements for such a system would demand a fusion reactor the size of a moon. Duke nodded agreeably. Yeah, Jenny mentioned something about that. That's why she built a better reactor. It's only about the size of a refrigerator. The scientists erupted in a cacophony of sounds, chirps, buzzes, bubbles, and crystalline rings, all expressing various forms of disbelief. Prism's facets darkened. Impossible. The energy density required would. Look, I don't know what to tell you, Duke interrupted, finishing his sandwich and wiping his hands on his flight suit. I'm just the test pilot. Jenny's the one who breaks physics for fun. You want to talk to her? She's back at the development facility on Titan. Vroon rippled forward. Pilot Groundrunner, the Council takes matters of technological parity very seriously. If humanity has developed a propulsion system this advanced, it could upset the entire balance of power in the galaxy. Balance of power, Duke laughed. Commander, we just built a really fast ship. We're not trying to conquer anybody. Mostly we just want to see how fast we can go. But the military applications, Vroon began, are probably pretty obvious, yeah, Duke agreed. But here's the thing. Jenny built the lightning bug because she was bored. She wanted to see if it could be done. Now that we know it works, humanity will probably build more. And then we'll build something even faster, because that's what we do. We push limits. Cathrex accessed her species database on humans, scrolling through entry after entry documenting their peculiar approach to science and engineering. There were reports of humans building starships in their pre-industrial age just to see if they could. Accounts of human children taking apart complex machinery out of curiosity. Stories of entire human research teams working on projects purely because someone said it was impossible. Your species is insane, Cathrex muttered. Duke grinned. Yeah, we get that a lot. But you gotta admit, insanity gets results. The station's communication array lit up with an incoming priority message. Vroon accepted it, and a holographic image materialized showing High Counselor Janarth, a dignified avian whose feathers were graying with age. Station Commander Vroon. Jaynath's voice carried the weight of authority. I've been receiving reports of a Terran vessel violating multiple safety protocols. What is the situation? Vroon quickly summarized the events. Jaynath listened without interruption, his eyes narrowing as the details accumulated. Pilot Groundrunner, Jaynath addressed Duke directly. The Council will need to convene an emergency session to discuss this development. Your vessel represents a significant shift in galactic capabilities. Duke scratched his head. With respect, High Counselor, I really need to get back to Titan. We've got like 6 more test flights before Jenny signs off on the propulsion system. This is not a request, pilot, Jaynath said firmly. You will remain at Station Zeta 9 until the Council determines how to proceed. Duke's expression shifted from casual to something more serious. High Counselor, I understand you're concerned, but here's the reality. The lightning bug isn't a weapon. It's not a threat. It's just proof that humans like going fast. You can study it, scan it, run whatever tests you want. But you can't stop us from building more. That's not how humanity works. You would defy a council directive. Jaynath's feathers ruffled with indignation. I'm not defying anything, Duke replied calmly. I'm just pointing out that you can't regulate curiosity. Jenny's already teaching other engineers how the propulsion system works. There are probably a dozen teams working on variations right now. In 6 months, there'll be 100 ships like the lightning bug. In a year, there'll be 1,000. And they'll all be faster, better, and more advanced than this one. The operations center fell silent. Even the background hum of the station's systems seemed muted. Jaynath's image flickered. You're describing an arms race. No, Duke said. I'm describing progress. Humans don't build things to threaten people. We build things because we can, because it's interesting, because someone said it couldn't be done, and that just makes us want to do it more. He paused. Look, if it makes you feel better, Jenny's already planning to publish her research. Any species that wants to build their own fast ships can have the blueprints. Shardmaster Prism chimed in disbelief. You would simply give away this technology. Why not? Duke shrugged. The galaxy gets faster ships. More species get to explore farther. Everyone benefits. Besides, by the time anyone else builds one, Jenny will have already moved on to something even more impossible. Caithrex pulled up more human historical data, focusing on their technological development timeline. What she found was simultaneously fascinating and terrifying. Humans had gone from wooden sailing ships to faster-than-light travel in less than 500 years. They'd weaponized nuclear fission before they'd perfected sanitation. They'd built computers that could think before they'd cured the common cold. Their entire civilization was a series of barely controlled explosions of innovation, each one building on the last, without any apparent concern for consequences. Your species doesn't think ahead, does it? Caithrex asked. Duke laughed. Oh, we think ahead. We just don't let thinking stop us from doing. There's a difference. Jaynath studied Duke for a long moment. Pilot Groundrunner, the Council has dealt with many species over the millennia. We have protocols for aggression, for diplomacy, for trade disputes. But humanity presents a unique challenge. You advance too quickly. You take risks that would make other species hesitate. You view impossible as a suggestion rather than a limitation. Thank you, Duke said, taking it as a compliment. It was not praise, Jaynath replied. It was an observation. However, I am beginning to understand that restricting your people would be both futile and counterproductive. The High Counselor's feathers settled. Very well. You may return to your facility, but the Council will be monitoring human technological development closely. Fair enough, Duke agreed. Just don't be surprised when we keep building crazy stuff. It's kind of our thing. Jaynath's hologram vanished. Vroon turned to Duke, his gastropod body language suggesting exhausted resignation. You may depart, pilot Groundrunner, but please try not to break any more sensors on your way out. Duke grinned and sketched a casual salute. No promises, Commander, but I'll do my best. As Duke headed back to the docking bay, Caithrex called after him. Pilot Groundrunner, one question. Why do you call your ship the Lightning Bug? Duke paused and looked back. Because Jenny's little girl saw it on the test flight and said it looked like a lightning bug the way it zipped around. The name stuck. He smiled. Also because lightning bugs glow in the dark and confuse predators. Seemed appropriate. He disappeared down the corridor, leaving the operations center in stunned silence. Shardmaster Prism rotated slowly. Do you realize what this means? If humans can build a vessel that fast, there's no limit to what they might achieve. That, Vroon bubbled grimly, is precisely what concerns me. Caithrex watched through the visual monitors as the lightning bug lifted off from the docking bay. Duke brought the engines online, and the ship's hull began to shimmer with barely contained energy. Then, without warning, it simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, leaving only a faint distortion in space and a cascade of sensor errors. Her instruments tracked it accelerating toward Titan, covering the distance in seconds. By the time the data fully processed, the lightning bug had already landed. He wasn't even trying to go fast that time, Caithrex said quietly. Vroon rippled over to stand beside her. No, he wasn't, which means we've only seen a fraction of what that vessel can do. Over the next few months, Caithrex monitored human activity in the sector. Duke had been right. More ships appeared, each one based on Jenny Rodriguez's propulsion system, each one faster than the last. Humans started calling them bug-class fighters, and they spread through human space like wildfire. Exploration missions reached distant star systems in days instead of years. Trade routes that once took weeks now took hours. Humanity's presence in the galaxy expanded exponentially, and just as Duke had promised, Jenny published her research. The Council's top scientists spent weeks trying to understand it. Most gave up after concluding that the math only made sense if you approached physics the way humans did, which was to say, as a set of suggestions rather than rules. A few brave species attempted to build their own versions. Most failed. The ones that succeeded discovered what the Council was slowly learning. Humans didn't just build things differently. They thought differently. They saw possibilities where others saw limitations. Caithrex found herself grudgingly impressed. Humanity had joined the galactic community less than a century ago, and they'd already changed everything, not through conquest or diplomacy, but through sheer stubborn refusal to accept that anything was impossible. 6 months after Duke's visit to Station Zeta 9, Caithrex received another alert. The lightning bug had returned, but this time it wasn't alone. 24 bug-class fighters flew in formation, their movements perfectly synchronized, creating patterns of light and distortion that were genuinely beautiful to watch. Duke's voice came through the communication channel. Hey there, Station Zeta 9. Duke Groundrunner checking in. Just wanted to show off the new squadron. We're calling ourselves the Fireflies. Pretty cool, right? Caithrex activated her transmitter. Pilot Groundrunner, are you just flying around to annoy us now? Little bit, yeah, Duke admitted cheerfully. But also Jenny wanted me to deliver something. Transmitting data package now. Cathrex's console beeped as a massive file transfer initiated. She scanned the contents, and her eye stalks went rigid with shock. Pilot Groundrunner, these are complete technical specifications for the bug-class propulsion system. Yep, Duke confirmed. Jenny figured if anyone wants to build their own fast ships, they shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. Consider it humanity's gift to the galaxy. We'll go faster together. The Firefly Squadron performed a series of synchronized maneuvers around the station, each one more impossible than the last, before accelerating away in different directions. Within seconds, they'd scattered across the entire system. Vroon rippled over to Cathrex's station. They're showing off. Yes, Caithrex agreed, but they're also sharing everything they've learned. No secrets, no advantages held back. They're actively helping other species catch up to them. Which means by the time anyone else reaches their current level, humans will have moved on to something even more advanced, Vroon observed. Caithrex pulled up the technical specifications Jenny had sent. Buried in the documentation was a note in plain text. This is version 1.0. We're already working on 2.0. It's going to be even faster. Because why not? They're impossible, Caithrex muttered, but she was smiling, or at least doing the Caithari equivalent of smiling. Vroon's skin shifted to a color that indicated philosophical acceptance. Perhaps impossible is exactly what the galaxy needed. The Council has spent millennia being cautious, moving slowly, avoiding risks. Humanity reminds us that sometimes the best path forward is to simply try. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. Bug-class fighters became common sights in Council space. Exploration expanded into previously unreachable regions. New trade partnerships formed between distant systems. And at the center of it all were humans, constantly pushing forward, constantly building something new, constantly proving that impossible was just another word for not yet achieved. Duke Groundrunner continued piloting new designs, each one more ridiculous than the last. Jenny Rodriguez became a legend among galactic engineers, her name spoken with equal parts reverence and exasperation. And the lightning bug, the ship that started it all, eventually ended up in a museum on Earth, mounted with a plaque that read, "The fastest thing in the galaxy until it wasn't." Because that was humanity in a nutshell. They built something impossible, shared it with everyone, and immediately moved on to building something even more impossible. They didn't do it for power or prestige. They did it because someone told them they couldn't, and humans really hated being told they couldn't do something. Keith Rex kept the first sensor readings from the lightning bug's visit, the ones that had shown impossible velocities and made no sense. She looked at them sometimes, remembering the day everything changed. The day an idiot named Duke Groundrunner flew the fastest ship in the galaxy through Council space just to see what would happen. It was the most human thing she'd ever witnessed, and she wouldn't have changed it for anything.